Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're not just reporting on Canadian immigration changes, we're really peeling back the layers.
Yeah, trying to reveal a narrative that's, well, frankly, far more dramatic than the official story might suggest.
Exactly. We've pulled together quite a range of sources, government announcements, but also economic analyses, news reports, even stuff from social media.
All to bring you the full, and like you said, often surprising picture.
Hmm.
What we found really points to a system that isn't just, adjusting slightly.
Mhm.
In some key areas, it feels more like a seismic shift
Right. So our mission here is to extract those surprising insights, connect some dots for you.
and help you really grasp what these profound changes mean for Canada, obviously, but also for anyone looking to build a life here, even just temporarily.
Think of this as your shortcut, your way to get truly well-informed about a situation that's changing, like really fast.
We'll explore the numbers, which are pretty striking.
Yeah, and the quiet policy shifts happening behind the scenes, and of course, the human and economic impacts.
Okay, let's dive in.
All right, so the Canadian government announced its 2025-2027 immigration levels plan last October.
Right. And the stated goal was to, quote, pause population growth in the short term.
The idea being to get to well-managed, sustainable growth in the long run.
And what's really new here, kind of a big deal actually, is that for the first time, this plan includes specific targets for temporary residents.
Yeah, not just permanent residents. They're now controlling numbers for international students and foreign workers, too.
But here's where it gets fascinating.
Mm.
The contract between those announced targets and what's actually happening on the ground now.
Okay, so what was the target versus the reality? You mentioned study permits, for instance.
Yeah, so the plan called for a modest 10% reduction in study permits for 2025 compared to 2024, just 10%.
Okay, 10%. Sounds manageable, but you're saying the reality is different.
Oh, dramatically different. We're seeing reductions far, far beyond that 10%.
Wow. So the immigration minister said the measures are working, but the data tells another story.
Well, working might be an understatement depending on the original intent. If the goal was 10%, then maybe not. If the unspoken goal was a massive cut, then maybe yes. The raw data points towards a really profound contraction, not just a trim.
Okay, let's dig into those specific numbers then. International students first. What are we actually seeing?
It's a dramatic plunge.
Yeah.
So January to June 2024, Canada issued over 125,000 study permits.
Okay. And 2025, same period.
Just over 36,000.
Wait, 36,000? Down from 125,000.
Yeah, that's a reduction of nearly 90,000 permits. It works out to around 70%. 70.
70%, not 10. That's staggering.
It's not just a slight adjustment. It's like a policy earthquake, really. And it's not just the permits issued. The number of applications also dropped significantly.
How much?
Fell by almost 100,000 applications in the first half of 2025 compared to 2024.
So less interest too. People are maybe getting the message or deciding not to apply.
It certainly indicates a substantial decrease in interest in studying in Canada. And that raises a really critical question, what's the impact on Canada's global brand,
Right.
our reputation as a top destination for education?
Huge impact, I'd imagine. And not just brand perception, right? There's the money side too.
Absolutely.
Canadian universities, colleges, they've become really reliant on international student tuition. It's often, 3 or 4 times higher than domestic fees?
Exactly. Our sources are pretty clear. These institutions are saying they'll struggle. Maintaining programs, keeping faculty, it all gets harder without that funding.
And then there's that other policy change, spouses.
Ah, yes. Removing the ability for many students to bring their spouses, especially if they have kids.
That must be a massive factor for people deciding where to study. Maintaining 2 households across continents for years.
It's a huge deal breaker for many, understandably.
Okay, so that's students. What about temporary foreign workers? Similar story.
Similar trend, yeah, though maybe less extreme in percentage terms. Still very significant, though.
How significant?
The data shows roughly 125,000 fewer new temporary workers arriving. So if you look at January 2024 admissions, it was around 33,000.
Okay.
January 2025 dropped to about 14,000.
Wow, okay, so that's more than half. About a 50% reduction in new arrivals just looking at that month.
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah.
Still very significant. And, some of this decline has explanations, new restrictions on postgrad work permits.
Right, and the spousal open work permits?
Exactly. And also, many of the Ukrainian emergency permit renewals probably happened in 2024, so that wave might be largely complete.
It makes sense, but still, big drops across the board.
But you hit on something critical earlier. The approval rates themselves, this is where it gets really interesting, beyond just the volume caps.
How so?
Look at study permits again. The approval rate collapsed. We're talking between 32% and 43% in the first 4 months of 2025.
And historically, what was it normally?
Historically, the global average was over 50%. So a big drop in the chance of getting approved, even if you apply.
And this happened without any, official change in the law?
Precisely. No explicit change in law or public policy. And that's key. Our sources really suggest this points to a major tightening of unwritten rules or directives.
So officers are applying the existing criteria much more stringently.
It certainly looks that way. A far stricter interpretation, likely aligning with that broader government goal to pause population growth. It feels like a policy shift being done quietly, operationally, rather than through Parliament.
So what does that mean for someone applying right now?
It means that discretion officers seems to be wielded much more harshly. For permanent residency, it's a mixed bag, but telling.
Okay.
Like the Canadian Experience class, that's for people who've already worked here, still has a really high approval rate, 94% for Jan-April 2025.
Okay, so that path seems relatively stable.
Relatively. But look at others. Humanitarian and Compassionate Applications Agency, these are for really exceptional hardship cases.
Yeah.
Down to just 23% approval.
23%, wow.
Even Federal Skilled Worker, a core economic program, only 52% approved in that period. Self-employed class, 32%. Startup visas, just 23%. Really low rates for pathways that used to be more accessible.
So it's not just about the caps, it's about actually getting through the door, even if you fit the category.
Exactly. And it raises questions about how these applications are even being processed now. Concerns about fairness, the rule of law.
We're hearing some anecdotal evidence, right? Stories suggesting applications aren't always getting a thorough human review. Like that example, someone applying for a visitor record just to attend their own admissibility hearing won the government schedule.
And getting refused with generic notes saying they'd had ample time already. It makes no sense on the surface.
It's really puzzling, and it points towards potentially an over-reliance on algorithms, maybe, advanced analytics, systems like Chinook.
That's the concern. Chinook is a key data analysis tool, yes.
Yeah.
Are we seeing systems generate these generic, almost non-responsive refusals without proper human oversight?
And if you get one of those refusals, what's the recourse?
Often, the only way to get a real human review of a decision like that is federal court. A judicial review
Which takes how long?
can easily take up to 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
And in the meantime, your work permit might expire, your temporary status runs out, you're stuck.
Wow.
And there's also this other thing sources mention, a decline in just sort of basic courtesies.
Like what?
Like holding an application open for a bit while someone's waiting for a document from another department. Things that used to be common practice seem to be disappearing.
Okay, so beyond the individual impact, which sounds pretty stressful, what about the wider economic picture?
Big ripples there, too. Businesses, especially in key sectors, tech, healthcare, construction, they're already facing labor shortages.
Right.
These kinds of cuts could seriously worsen those gaps. Think project delays, maybe lower productivity across the economy.
And it's not just the big national picture, right? What about smaller provinces?
Absolutely crucial point. Smaller provincial economies, especially ones with aging populations, low birth rates, they really depend on newcomers for growth.
So having immigration numbers there could really slow things down.
It risks slowing development significantly. Could even force some industries to downsize or, close up shop entirely in some regions.
Okay, but there's the housing argument, too, the government angle.
Yes, the government projects these cuts could reduce the housing supply gap. Their number is about 670,000 units by the end of 2027.
And the parliamentary budget officer.
Their estimate is a bit lower, but still significant reduction of 534,000 units in the gap by 2030. So there's a potential upside on housing pressure, that it's not a guarantee it plays out exactly like that.
Interesting. Now, there was also that Bank of Canada study from May 2025. What did that tell us about the workers themselves?
Yeah, that study highlighted some really significant shifts in who temporary workers are now.
Like?
They've become younger, generally have less work experience, and increasingly come from lower-income countries. India is now the top source country, for example, overtaking places like Northern and Western Europe that used to dominate.
Okay, younger, less experienced, different source countries. And how does that connect to wages? That was the striking part, wasn't it?
That's the kicker. The average wage gap, the nominal wage gap between temporary workers and Canadian-born workers has more than doubled in the last decade.
Doubled. Wow. What are the
It moved
metrics?
from around minus 9.5% in the 2006-2014 period
Okay.
to minus 22.6% in 2023-2024.
Minus 22.6%. That's a huge difference in earnings compared to Canadian-born workers.
It is, and it's not just a number, right? It tells a really profound and honestly quite concerning story about economic integration for this group now compared to the past.
Yeah, imagine arriving maybe with debt from your education or travel, and finding your earning potential is that much lower than temporary workers who came before you.
It changes everything. Their ability to build a stable life, contribute economically in the ways we've historically relied on, and the study links this widening gap directly back to those changing characteristics we just talked about: region of birth, level of experience.
So it's explained by the demographics shifting.
Largely, yes. Interestingly, the study also looked at recent permanent residents, those here 5 years or less.
And for them.
Their wage gap with Canadian-born workers has actually narrowed. It went from negative 22.5% down to negative 13.1%.
Huh. So PRs seem to be integrating better economically over time on a different track than recent temporary workers.
Exactly. It suggests a different, more positive integration pathway currently for those who achieve permanent residency compared to the temporary group.
Okay, shifting gears a bit again. What about public opinion in all this?
Yeah.
How are Canadians feeling?
There's definitely been a palpable shift. Sources point to overall support for immigration dropping quite significantly.
And that's reflected in the media.
Increasingly, yes. Sometimes in ways that, vilify either the government for letting too many people in or sometimes the newcomers themselves. It's becoming a more polarized discussion.
Does this signal maybe a deeper value shift in Canadian society?
That's a really important question the sources raise. One observation was quite compelling. It pointed out the contrast. There seems to be public outrage sometimes about foreign workers taking jobs.
Right.
But at the same time, there's widespread acceptance, even preference sometimes, for human customer service jobs being replaced by chatbots and automated systems.
Interesting contrast.
Yeah, and the argument some sources make is that this discrepancy might highlight a sort of erosion of certain liberal values around labor, community.
Yeah.
Maybe our collective idea of what necessary work is and who should do it is subtly changing.
And social media probably doesn't help with nuance here.
Definitely not. Complex issues get boiled down to snippets, tweets. You lose the context, the long-form understanding we're trying to get at here.
And that simplification makes it harder to grasp the human impact, right?
Absolutely. When individuals have invested years, their life savings, and then feel like the message becomes, your temporary status means we don't want you anymore.
That feeling of gaslighting, some describe.
Exactly. The feeling that the government encouraged them, maybe implicitly promised pathways, and then pulled the rug out, it leaves people feeling misled, unwelcome. It's a tough situation.
So wrapping this up, looking ahead, what's the big picture takeaway?
Well, it's clear that Canadian immigration landscape is going through a really intense period of adjustment, big reductions, a major reevaluation of the whole approach.
So for you, the listener, understanding these shifts is vital.
Yeah, from those collapsing approval rates, the economic impacts we discussed, to just the changing face of who newcomers are. It's more crucial than ever to be informed.
It's definitely complex, definitely dynamic, and the advice we saw in the sources seems pretty clear for applicants right now.
Which is?
Basically, prepare your applications as strong as you possibly can. Assume intense scrutiny.
Good advice. Like that example for federal skilled worker applicants. Make sure your reference letters explicitly list all your duties. Don't leave anything out. Apparently, that's a common reason for refusal now. Details matter more than ever.
Yeah.
And this whole situation, I think, it really encourages all of us to look critically at the narratives around immigration. Look beyond the headlines. Consider all the different facets of these policy changes.
What really stands out to me is thinking about the pendulum, public pressure, economic worries, push it one way towards these drastic reductions. But could it swing back? If the economic consequences of these cuts really start to bite the labor shortages, the slowed growth, will the discourse shift again? Will we see a new call for more immigration down the line?
That's the big question, isn't it? It's definitely something to mull over. We're only about 25% through what many experts think will be a pretty rough couple of years in this whole immigration space.
So the key is to stay informed.
Stay informed, stay critical, and keep asking those deep dive questions.